Good evening. If you check your screen time right now, the number might shock you. We're living in an era of hyper-connectivity, yet we have never felt more isolated. Recent data reveals a terrifying trend. Anxiety, depression, and loneliness among youths are skyrocketing. But is social media simply a bad habit, or is it something far more complex? Tonight, on this special report, The Digital Dilemma, we go beyond the surface. We're not just looking at the statistics, we're dissecting the mechanism. We have invited a team of specialists to investigate this crisis from 3 dimensions. First, the biological trap, why we can't stop scrolling. Second, the social amplifier, how platforms magnify our deepest insecurities. And finally, the philosophical diagnosis, what this technology is doing to our very existence. Let's begin by looking at the reality on the ground. Over to our lead data analyst.
Technology has enabled instant and abundant connection, eliminating the geographic barriers and allowing relationships across continents to be maintained. However, this often leads to a bolder but a shallower social network, where the number of online friends or followers may mask the depth and the quality of offline for physical relationships and may contribute to feelings of loneliness in an over-connected environment. The digital age offers instant access to vast amounts of information, fundamentally altering the way decisions are made. From consumers' purchase to identical knowledge, beliefs, social influence, amplified through influence on platforms like TikTok and viral trends, now plays a dominant role in shaping references and behaviors, sometimes even overriding individual crucial judgments. Technology has accelerated the transformation of social values, prioritizing global digital belongings over local community ties. It has also forced promotive, individualized, and consumerist cultures, with self-worth inclusions try to own metrics like shares and the displays of the multi-closely planted lifestyle. Woodward 2024. Moreover, advancements in artificial intelligence and virtual colleges have brought new ethnic challenges, which put pressures on traditional moral framework and require new forms of ethnic reasoning.
Around the world, more and more teenagers report an increase in anxiety and depression. In public narratives, social media is often directly referred to as the culprit of this mental health crisis. But today, we will temporarily put aside our intuitive judgment and turn to a more complex and challenging question. For psychological health, is social media a root or is it amplifiers? For the daily situation of many teenagers, pressure does not start from the screen, but is continuously amplified by the screen. When the academic burden and self-aspiration in reality already exist, the peer dynamics on social media has become the mirror that constantly contrasts and make people have nowhere to hide. Our research shows that many teenagers have faced multiple pressures in academics, family, and identity before being exposed to social media. Social media does not create these pressures, but amplifies them in 3 ways. The first one, algorithm push. The second one, weather compression. Third, emotional transmission. Therefore, all in all, the social media is more like an efficient amplifier. The judgment is also supported by empirical research. Many longitudinal tracking studies show that after controlling the original mental health baseline, family support system, and personal characteristics from adolescence, the correlation between social media use and subsequently psychological problems has been significantly weakened. Therefore, the key to the problem may not be whether to use social media, but is what kinds of psychological state do we need to enter this space, and what kind of system is continuously shaped by. And this is also leading to our next deeper question. What is the connection between this phenomena and philosophical views?
Welcome back. Now we turn to a deep layer. When algorithms do more than push content, when they begin to shape our cognition and values, how do we understand the philosophical challenges of the digital existence? Here is the essentially warning. Social media is outsourcing the question of who am I to likes and follower counts. Individuals invade the freedom and responsibility of building their own identity, falling into what is called bad faith, replacing gender self-exploration when quantifiable data self. The postmodern perspective reveals a fragmented reality. Algorithms act as personalized curators of truth. We no longer share a common factual ground. When everyone lives in their own information cocoon, public dialogue and regional consensus become immensely difficult. A utilitarian calculation shows a fundamental misalignment between the platform's attention economy and societal well-being. From a virtual IC's standpoint, infinite scroll erodes temperance, while performative pressure distorts society. The core issue is a structural conflict between technological logic and holistic human development. Therefore, social media is more than a psychological amplifier. It's a powerful philosophical engine, reshaping our understanding of self, truth, and virtue. Recognizing this is an indispensable starting point for any effective solution, be it education, regulation, or self-regulation. Next, my partner Churiji will summarize where the potential pathways forward may lie in facing this complex challenge.
We begin by examining the psychological impact of social media platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and X. Originally designed for communication, these platforms have evolved into powerful digital environments that shape behavior and emotional well-being. Over the past decade, social media use has increased sharply, especially among adolescents. This trend intensified during the COVID-19 pandemic, as many turned to digital platforms for connection and emotional escape. However, research shows that excessive use is linked to higher levels of anxiety, depression, and psychological stress. From a neurological perspective, frequent social media use activates dopamine pathways in the brain. Dopamine provides short-term pleasure, encouraging repeated engagement. Over time, this process reinforces habitual use rather than long-term mental well-being. As a result, social media has become a double-edged sword, offering connection while also placing growing pressure on mental health. To understand how these psychological patterns are reinforced, we now turn to the design features that keep users constantly engaged.
We know that from a psychological perspective, social media platforms are designed to capture and maintain attention. When users receive likes, comments, or new content, the brain releases dopamine, a chemical linked to pressure and motivation. This creates a reward cycle that encourages repeated checking and habitual use. Another important feature is infinite scrolling. Because there is no clear stopping point, users often continue scrolling longer than intended. This constant stimulation can lead to mental fatigue, emotional exhaustion, and reduced concentration. Over time, users may feel restless when they are offline and emotionally drained after long periods of use. Young users are especially vulnerable because their ability to regulate emotion is still developing. This explains why social media can feel enjoyable at first but mentally exhausting in the long run.
In addition, seeing many edited and ideal images online can affect how users see themselves. People often compare their lives with what they see in social media, which can create pressure and make them feel not good enough. This comparison can increase stress and emotional discomfort.
Digital feedback such as likes, shares, and followers has a significant impact in self-esteem, particularly among teenagers. On social media, identity is increasingly measured in numbers, making self-worth publicly visible. Human beings naturally seek acceptance and validation. On digital platforms, these needs are often met through external feedback. While likes can briefly boost confidence, their absence may lead to anxiety, self-doubt, and feelings of inadequacy. Psychologists describe this phenomena as the self as a display, where personal value depends on external approval rather than internal self-worth. To gain validation, many users present idealized versions of themselves online. This creates a gap between the real self and the digital self, encouraging constant comparison and increasing emotional insecurity. Teenagers are especially vulnerable as their sense of identity is still developing. Ultimately, this raises an important question. Are individuals value for who they truly are or for how they are perceived online? When self-worth depends on digital numbers, psychological well-being is placed at risk.
Hello everyone, my name is Lim Lik Fong and I'm a lead investigator and data analysis. And we are researching the extent to which social media has contributed to the growing mental health crisis among the youth. In the last decade, the proliferation of social media has revolutionized the modes of communication for youths alongside identity construction processes. Nowadays, platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and X, formerly Twitter, have been deeply embedded within adolescents' social lives, along with their identity construction processes. Although there have been certain benefits for youths, such as efficient opportunities for socialization, self-expression, and information acquisition, a growing body of research suggests that social media use can be a factor contributing to poorer mental health outcomes for youths, along with rising cases of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and body image issues. This paper examines the degree to which issues of social media have complicated present-day mental health issues prevalent in youth, based on studies from the Pew Research Center, Child and Adolescent Psychiatry and Mental Health, and Behavioral Health News. So, let's take a look at the overview of youth mental health trends. The youth mental health crisis has become an international issue that has arisen over the course of the previous decade. This is because statistics provided by the Pew Research Center revealed that 40% of American youth admitted to having experienced mental issues such as depression or anxiety, mainly as a result of their use of social media. One way through which it seems that social media influences the youth mental health crisis in the United States concerns the reduction of the amount of time that these individuals spend on healthy forms of socialization. As revealed by the Journal of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry and Mental Health, the impact created by the excessive use of social media lies not in the total number of hours, but in the way in which this time is spent. Notably, this involves the way in which it allows the user to become emotionally connected to social platforms that act as tools for the process of socialization. So, what are the mechanisms of psychological impact? Social media impacts the mental feeling of young individuals in the following ways, such as when they compare their bodies or lives to others, are victims of cyberbullying, or are subjected to flawless images of others' lives. As the report from the Behavioral Health News states, the impact of social media on the mental feelings of teenagers can be harsh, primarily because the brains of teenagers, especially for the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which controls impulse management, are still developing for these adolescents. As kids compare their bodies to influencers of the same age, they begin to feel pretty deficient, and the same algorithms that promote unhealthy content also dump emotionally charged and often toxic types of information into their laps, which they are not taught to recognize or disregard. So let's take a look at the empirical evidence from recent studies. In child and adolescent psychiatry and mental health, research revealed that in a large sample of adolescents across various countries, there was a relationship between excessive use of social media and depression, as well as problems with attention in these adolescents. It was revealed in research conducted by Pew Research Center in 2025, in which over 1,400 adolescents participated, that 32% of adolescents in America experienced negative effects from social media, in contrast to 9% who experiences positive effects. However, most adolescents are yet to forget that social media provides them with extensive benefits in terms of identity formation and friendship. Social media in itself does not pose danger or threats to adolescents. Excessive use of it creates these problems. So let's take a look at the family and societal factors for social media involvement in adolescence. The involvement and connection of parents with their kids are very important to avoid the negative effect that occur when using social platforms. According to Behavioral Health News 2024, the family-based methods such as learning literacy, co-viewing social platforms will be significant to discourage the negative effects. Parents and youths have to build trust in order to have positive conversations and critical analysis of social materials. Social hotspots like learning institutions and communities should promote preventive measures around the promotion of mental wellness among the youth, like teaching emotional resilience and how to use technology. By making students aware about the authenticity of the material used on the social platforms by the professionals from the learning institution, it will help to discourage things like peer pressure and social comparison. So, what about the positive aspects and balanced perspectives of social media? In spite of these bad sides, there are also good sides of social media for young people's mental health. As pointed out by Pew Research in 2025, a finding that states that most teenagers use social media as a site to make contact with other people with similar interests and hobbies. They also use social media to ask for help from others when experiencing difficult emotions, or to become involved in activism. And this will be very helpful for children who are sensitive, as they would be understood and appreciated by a community with similar interests. So really it's less of a big challenge when it comes to technology, but more so because of bad tech habits from teachers, since teachers can present ways of being healthy with technology. So now I'm going to pass it on to the next researcher. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a scary thought. That we're becoming just data, not real people. So, what is the conclusion tonight? Social media is not just a tool, it is a trap. As we heard, it tricks our brain with dopamine, it takes our school stress and makes it huge. And it makes us care more about likes than our real lives. So, what is the solution? Throw away our phones? No. We need what we call digital resilience. This means take back control. Don't let an app decide if you are happy or sad. Don't let an algorithm tell you who you are. Focus on your real friends, your real courage, and your real life. Remember, the phone is a tool, you're the master. Don't let it become your master.